I have to smile. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Emunah Israel. Solonamics 101. Left Project. Review. This is I think I used to call it Left Project Special. So I'll call it Left Project Special. This is the review of, y'all know how I do when there's certain things you can't do until you come on actually. And so in efforts to share it, this is what you see me doing because it's live. So basically this is the Left Project review for Birth of a Nation. I went today to go and watch. Welcome those who have just joined us. And I did, before I start, has anybody seen the movie? I know it just came out. Has anybody else had an opportunity to see Birth of a Nation that just came out? 1 second. Let us know. Do you want to see it? Have you seen it? Do you know anybody who saw it? Let me go ahead and see. I'm talking to you guys as if I could see. So today we're going to talk a little bit about my review on it. Because, and for those who are new to the channel, my name is Emunah Israel. This is Solonomics 101. And, you know, anytime it's a heavy day, that's how you got to breathe. You got to just let the oxygen flow.
You're finally meeting his family of 8.
You got to let the oxygen flow throughout your body. So I was like, oh, wow. I saw 1 and 2 reviews, right? And I heard some people, Son of Levy, what's up? I haven't. I'm going to try to see it this week. Yeah, it's a must see. And for me, anyway, you already know I'm on that tip. So, yeah, definitely. I went today and welcome. I went today to the matinee. So I called my mother like, I'm going to need you. You know, it's rated R. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to take the little ones. But I'm going to need you to come do this. You already know the story. That's what I'm saying. Most people be like, what? I'm like, hello, it's a true story. So I told my mother, I'm going to need you to come look at the babies. I got to go do this Left Project Special Intelligence Report. You understand? And so she said, she came through. And so I went inside. I was ready early. This is the wild thing, but I was doing a little live thing and I got there 5 minutes before. So they apparently started this movie exactly at 1:20. Because as I go in the place, I'm like, what in the world? I already started before the actual intro came, but I missed like 2 minutes. So I'm fumbling. I'm trying to get to my seat. And long story short, I find my seat. I sit there. And again, it's a slave narrative. So, you know, we've read a couple of those. I've seen a couple of movies. And so, again, I'm looking at it and I'm watching. And it's something that I don't know if I could find the words for at this point. That beyond the narrative, let me just say, as I watched his awakening to a level of consciousness, I think that was a different type of engagement, if you can understand. Sometimes we put, depending on where you pick up the story at, but the way the story was picked up, it was picked up at a space where you were able to see his evolution from, you know, they picked him up as a little boy, but as he grew and he took note of all the injustices that rubbed his spirit the wrong way, because this story is not just his story, it's an awakening story. And I think personally, this is why you see a lot of push within the media to detract from Nat Turner for Nate Parker. Like, and yeah, you will see that. And the reason for me anyway is because if I can detract and make it about the person who wrote the story, And he didn't even write the story. The story is already written. He's retelling the story for the masses. And so as Nat Turner is seeing all of the things that we read about, like they hiring him to only read portions of the scriptures in order to manipulate the slaves. So you have a lot of our people in the community say, oh, you know, they use the Bible to enslave. No, they used portions. And when he came into that reawakening of going into spaces where you see that balance, where you see that the Torah, the Bible does not allot for that lopsidedness. When you see him identifying with the injustices of, because initially he didn't have a hard life. Again, we're going to get to the story right now. We're reading Alado Equiano, and probably after this, I'm going to end this one and then open back up and do some reading because I'm just kind of in that mood. But anyway, just his awakening. Again, they're showing the same dynamic that we need to see, which is how the black man and black woman's relationship got destroyed. You need to see these things because it's one thing to read them, but we see the after effects, kind of like the storm that just passed through here. You see the after effects. You go outside and you see the tree rooted up. You see the shingles off the house, which is actually right now shingles on the floor. Or you see the flooded water that's in my children's room because, you know, you see the after effects of the storm. But to actually see the power of what destroyed you, your relationships, our families, our structure, that is something that makes it real. No longer can you say, because I've seen some people say, oh, I walked out. I'm like, you're walking out on your healing. You're walking out on your deliverance. You're walking out on your breakthrough. To me, that makes no sense. But anyway, you were able to see how it was a no holds bars environment, that people did whatever they want with vigilante justice, and melanated people were basically at the mercy to a large degree of these Europeans who were totally out of control. They were out of control because what does absolute power do? It corrupts absolutely. So as it relates to slave narratives, this is not your average narrative, because in his awakening, he came to the point where he realized he had to do something. Now, some people would be like, okay, this is why they may be slandering him, because they don't want you to come to that term to think you have to do that. Again, it wasn't a fair fight. It wasn't, but it was a catalyst. When you look at the story of Nat Turner, when you look at how it affected everyone in and around that area for miles and miles and miles away, you understand that he became, and that rebellion became the catalyst, because it struck fear into the hearts of the fearless. And I'm telling you guys my review, and I'm actually writing my review as we speak. And he was able to, with realizing that at the point that they were, nothing else was going to do. There's portions within the Torah, the Bible, that lets us know that it's just weights. It's just weights. And what the European slave master wanted to do was take you away from that thought that there's just weights, and they put it into the by and by. They put it into the hereafter. They put it into this whole story and narrative that a lot of our forefathers had to hold on to because they didn't have anything else. For those who just joined us, this is the review. I'm not going to give you guys the whole thing. Like Son Levy said, man, it's a real story, so we could definitely read it. So it's not going to be like, oh, I can't believe that. It's a story that we can read. But Shalom, sis, how you doing? It was powerful because there were many times where I wasn't crying like, it was my soul literally was releasing. Like I said, my mother said it was draining. I said, no, it wasn't draining. It was cleansing. That, again, from watching so much and reading so much and studying so much, for me personally, the movie was cleansing. Like the tears was just flowing down my face. So much so till that at the end of it, I couldn't get up from my chair. I literally watched as the people jumped up out of their chairs like, oh, like I said, they just finished watching The Terminator or something. Like they just finished watching, what did you do? I saw what you did last summer. Oh, that was entertainment. They didn't experience the movie. They watched the movie. And I experienced the movie. And so even after it was done, I was like, I'm just going to sit here. The lady came in, started cleaning, the screen, however long it takes the credits to roll, that's how long I sat there as the tears streamed down my face. But it wasn't how it used to be. I don't know if I can explain it. It wasn't, when I say this work right here is healing, it's not as it used to be. It's in a way that I can't change that, but I can process it. You understand what I'm saying? I can't go back there and fix it and make this person be able to escape and make this person not die, because they did and it happened. But I can process what it is that I'm seeing so that I can see clearly. If we understand that, if we don't process then now it's like we got cataracts. Now it's like we have vision problems, and what we are seeing epigenetically is not where we could potentially be. Realistically, it is this gloss over. We're glossed over with all soul debris. There's so much stuff that's in our DNA that was passed down to us from our fathers, our mothers. We're composite of all of these people, grandparents, great-grandparents, journeys, hurt, pain, loss, and we're a composite. It's in our DNA. Look up epigenetics. Look it up. And how stresses from the past can be upon your genetics. They can rest upon and influence, and they can turn on and off certain things within your body, within your stress response system. And I felt myself, I had to keep telling myself, relax. Because when we do, like when we tense up, when we do like this, then we crystallize and we calcify the pain. And when you relax, as like in the scene where he was getting beat, but he didn't make a sound. Because there's a point that you reach that pain doesn't even translate anymore. And so as we're processing this very emotionally heavy material, if you allow it, just like the river, to flow. Why do dams flow over? Does anybody know why dams flow over? Because it's not supposed to be dammed up. I'm never going to wait for the answer. When people, bonjour, tout le monde, Kyle, what's up? What you said to me, French? Kyle giving me bonjour. When you have artificial, what's up, Kyle? How you doing? When people, I'm talking about Birth of a Nation. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and check it out. Because again, there's so many parts within it. Like I said, it's not anything that I felt. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't sadness. I don't even know if I have the word right now. But it was in need of tears. Because they, like somebody said, let the tears out. They cleanse the soul. Let me give you a few parts for me that really, really stood out. And I think also it was the calmness. I think what also made it was the calmness of the way Nate Parker played Nat Turner. It was that stillness in his spirit on screen. And there has been many, drama and controversy around him. And I think it's to detract from people actually experiencing this and really deflecting from the reality. But the way his ruach, as we would say in Hebrew, the way his spirit translated on the screen, it was one that helped you to really walk with him, let me say. And so all of the people who participated, they did an excellent job and some people be like, oh, Europeans are looking for something else. And so please, if you're reading some of these reviews, you have to understand what's behind it. If they say it's a flop, to who? Concerning what? Are you talking about money? Are you still trying to make a monetary value off the pain, hurt? Understand that a lot of things as it translates to the oppressive regime Racism, white supremacy, and this thought process is all about monetary gain and suppression of those who you don't think is on your level. So when someone says it's a flop, how can restoring an accurate portion of history be a flop? You have to ask yourself these questions. What about that is a flop? Is it true or is it not true? So, you know, it's a lot of things that you can pick up. Again, don't let this be your only teacher. And I'm not going to stay long because I'm going to read another few chapters of Alado Equiano. Don't let this be a teacher, meaning don't let this be the only time you know any history. Okay? If you didn't learn nothing from popping in and out of the lab project, we get Sudan. And many other people, you have historically Black colleges, you have historians, you have teachers, you have moderators, you have community activists who may be in your town, in your area, in your neighborhood, and they are passionate about this information. Don't let Hollywood, even if it is our own, have to tell you your own story when you have the opportunity and the ability to learn for yourself. Let this be an additive. Let it help to give you a little extra. Like, I'm not going to it to say, man, I never knew anything, and wow, look at this. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna again give you guys everything, but what I will say is I really need to see this film. I hear it has Black folks going crazy. Kyle, we stop playing and put her back on the main channel. You know that I shout out to I know Dr. Boyce is really busy. I used to post the videos, but then the password changed, and so I haven't been on the main channel in a minute, and I just didn't get back to Dr. Boyce to. I just didn't get back to him to get the new password, because sometimes the main channel be wild too, Kyle. Sometimes the main channel be wild over there. So, you know, I'll give shout out to Dr. Boyce Watkins. I just haven't gotten back. I have posted on Fly Movie and Queens on Facebook, but I just haven't gotten back to the main channel on. But definitely that's something I might have to ask him again to get that information. I mean, I wouldn't say going crazy. They came to the point where they realized I had enough. And understand that a lot of what slave masters, slave owners, a lot of what the society did then was to quail, because they were terribly afraid of insurrection. They were terribly afraid. And Shalom, Miriam, how you doing? They were terribly afraid of uprising. And so a lot of the laws, like no gathering, no more than 2 or 3 Negroes coming together, no going to church unless somebody's there watching you. All of this, especially after the Nat Turner rebellion, was in response to being afraid, as they are today, of coming together to go against your oppression. And like I said, this morning I woke up, and I'm going to read the questions and comments. This morning I woke up to a news report coming out of Ethiopia that says state of emergency. Now, what I always like to express or is that it's not just a black or white thing. I know we don't like to hear it in the West, but the truth is the truth. Now, Ethiopia is a melanated country full of melanated people. I live there, I know. And however, different cultures within that melanated society that have different languages, different rites of passage, different things that they expect of themselves and one another, are living together. So the Amhara, the Oromio, and the Tigrayan government, which is the minority, but long story short, there's a lot of, they're opening up the land to external people like China, like other European places. And the people thought that, and again, this is going back to Birth of a Nation so that we could kind of understand when people have had enough. They thought that it was going to benefit them. And when they found out, now, this is why you see the Olympic runner, he was afraid of going back because he put up the sign to say he stood with the people. And now there's a big insurrection, a big uprising. If you look on the news, if you look on what's going on, Ethiopia is doing the same thing. They're saying, I'm not going to stand for this anymore. There's only but so much you can do to the human spirit before the human spirit gets to the point where they push back. And so I find that very interesting. On the morning that I decided last night I was going to see this movie. And when I woke up in this morning, I could see in real life today how this translates. In this situation, it was black and white. In that situation, it's quote black on black. You understand? Oppression is oppression, no matter where, no matter how it looks. But Kyle said, I really need to see this film. They like I said, they're coming into the reality of, look, I'm just not going to take it anymore. The concept was good, but the horror was pacified. I mean, that's from J. Ben. You know this, but so much. There was some parts that even I had to be like, okay, he's about to chop him. Let me just be easy. You know, there's some parts that some people may like, the blood, the gore, the all of that other stuff, and some people might be like, yo, that's a bit much. So, you know, I think it was tasteful. And not going overboard. Son of Larry, yeah, I think he had pacified the violence so the movie could come out. They didn't show him killing white women and white children. Yeah, they show him murking the master. But yeah, you know, it did he? Wait, hold on. Did he? I can't remember. I know they went after the men, but I can't remember. You know, again, this is the type of thing you might have to see more than one time. Son of Man, look up Nate Parker interview on Breakfast Club. I will do that, Nate. Miriam says, Shalom, Kyle, really, why did they leave out the killing of the evil white folks? No, they showed that. They showed some of that. They showed them facing off. When they got to this place, they were trying to go get the guns. They showed them facing off in Jerusalem, like hand-to-hand combat fighting. They showed the other brother going in there and chopping off the head like Goliath and holding it into their hand. Like they showed that. They really did. So the movie come out, they wouldn't have let the movie out if it didn't make some kind of take out some of the violence. Yeah, it came out. And Kyle says, I bet it was some black folks being killed. It wouldn't have been a problem. Smooth sailing, probably. What's that, brother Kyle? What, in respect to which one is that? Let me know. But yeah, for those who just joined us, we're just doing a little quick review on the birth of a nation. Again, Europeans were in there, melanated people were in there. And I think people were so uncomfortable, like literally, as soon as the movie cut, the people was like, you know how they turn on the lights at the club? They was like, okay, I'm out, you know. And I just thought that was interesting. I personally wanted to just, because I understand if you take those emotions with you and you don't speak about them or you don't share them or you don't process them, what you're going to do is eternalize it. Everything we watch, movies, television, music, or whatever you experience in front of you, if you continue to allow yourself to absorb these things, this is why I'm very mindful of what I allow in my spirit. If you allow yourself to absorb these things via whatever avenue and not find an expression for them that's positively going to like detox yourself, then you, in your efforts to attain knowledge and wisdom and grow, you're actually going to jack yourself up. And so immediately after I shared, I processed, I came home, I spoke to my mother. She asked me, I'm here, I'm talking to everyone. And I always like to try to present a place where we can have this conversation, because again, when you look at this time of antebellum, even up until now, slavery, chattel, till now, the time and space and freedom for most to really say how they feel and what they're going through is not something that as a broader community we can really say, yeah. It's either, oh, you acting like a punk, oh, you stop crying, oh, man up, oh, woman up, pull on your big girl drawers, because the thought is, the consensus is that we're at war. And when we're at war, you don't have time to moan and cry about what your problems are. We have to keep going. And the truth is, we've been at war since the time our foreparents stepped off the ships. We've been at war because it's always in a situation where your life is in the balance. And so this being said, it has piled up from generation to generation to generation. And now we have alcoholism and we have, you know, chronic diseases, and we have all of these things that plague a people who have not come to terms with their reality. If you can give me 1 second. All right. So with that said, if anybody has anything else to say, feel free to share. The baby's bawling like somebody done jumped on it. Come here, mommy. Okay, mommy. Oh, Whitey then to see. If anybody has anything else to say, come on, mom. No quiet. Feel free to do so. If not, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this review. I'm writing the article. I guess I'm in the middle. When you're talking and writing or speaking and writing, it's two different thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And so I was in the midst of writing. Then I looked up. I was like, all right, it's 8 o'clock. So whatever I didn't go into fully, I would definitely like to hear your thoughts. See what I'm talking about? Did you hear about the white feminists who held a silent vigil against the Birth of a Nation movie? I didn't hear about that one, Senator Levy. If you have the link, feel free to put it in the box. I did hear about this feminist group that is talking about, they're still trying to say that he raped the woman. This is, to my understanding, 17 years ago, and that he was acquitted. And I find it very ironic that the very same mentality that tells you to get over slavery, it was so long ago, no one was held accountable, is the same mentality now. Again, it's the same thing coming back to say that my life is worth more than yours. Do you understand what I'm saying? And again, Nat Turner is not Nat Parker. And that's his name, right? Nat Parker. So therefore, they're mixing the issues because of deflection. Right. It's a threat to me to continue on with what it is that I want to do. You know, I shout out to Brother Philippe Matthews. Brother Philippe Matthews is doing some real interesting work. Okay, let us know, Sister Miriam. Check out the movie and let us know. And continue to check out the Left Project and other people who are doing very good things. One of these people is Brother Philippe Matthews. I do interviews with him every week for the last 5 months, right? Doing a lot of speaking and things of this nature. What I find interesting is that he has been bringing in, and just check him out, he's on YouTube. He's been bringing in Europeans who are willing to admit to the game that they're playing. And what many would say we are conspiracy theorists about, they're willing to admit. So there's a few videos that I've just finished watching that spells out all of what we're talking about as it relates to anything that people don't agree with. One of those is an elder, I think she's a doctor. One speaks of white fragility. Another one speaks of when she woke up white. And another one speaks of like white and racism. I forgot the exact name of the video, but I say that to say they speak of all of their tactics in their toolbox, which this is one of them: deflection, you know, turning the tables, changing the narrative. This is what they do. And just to finally see them admitting it, I think it's just awesome, and it's progress. And so if you have an opportunity, definitely check that out, because we see that this is what is happening. Character assassination within the public, so that you can be discredited, and instead of looking at the story and learning and researching for what it is, you'll turn away just because you're thinking of Nate Parker as opposed to Nat Turner. I read somewhere they're trying to make him give a public apology even though he was acquitted. Yeah, because this is the kind of thing that they do. This is the kind of thing that racism, white supremacy does in order to continue to subjugate you and deface you, and let's stand that, boy, you still need to stay in your place. Do you think Nat Turner can be publicly idolized without people thinking that you want to kill white folks? I don't believe in idolizing. And I think that's what they're afraid of, because they do idolize people who in their history have done things. You know, they make statues and they exalt people who in their history. I was reading, like we read in the last narrative, Girl's Life in Virginia, and she idolized Robert E. Lee. You understand what I'm saying? They take people who have done this and begin to idolize them. So I'm not into making idols. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not into idolizing people, but can you highlight what it is that someone has done and show how it affected history? Of course you can. Can you give respect and credence to those who've come before you and the work that they've done? Of course you can. That's called testimonies of your foreparents. But idolizing them and putting them on pillars, they're born and die like men. So I don't go that far, but definitely we live in a system. Look, American Idol, we live in a system where everyone has to be exalted as gods or thrown down as lower than men. So Luke Cage is mad. I don't know the thing. I'm hearing about this Luke Cage person, but I don't know, tell you the truth, I don't know much about that scenario or what's really going on there. So if you would like to share, Kyle, feel free to do so. Miriam says the Caucasians are very upset about the film and probably terrified. They were terrified then, they're terrified now because the climate, and it's not by accident or happenstance. This movie was been produced. They also know what they're doing too. So we have to, for me anyway, it will behoove us not to fall for, because it's like gaslighting. Okay, it's gaslighting. There has been a push for a racial uprising this whole year. Okay, and so you have to take what someone is meant for you as bad and use it for good. Definitely understand that the sequence of slave narratives and the funding of these films is called gaslighting. But if we succumb to it from an emotional level and allow that thought to make you angry and upset and then yeah, now I have the other individual through this gaslighting has controlled your behavior. But if you take it for something else, if you take it for your liberation, if you take it for your healing, if you take it for helping you to get to the next level, then thank you for spending millions of dollars to help me to get to that point. So it's all how you look at it. Do you think that this film is propaganda to fuel the race wars in America? I don't think it's propaganda because it's history. But I do think it's like I said, it's gaslighting. It's used in a way to try to control these race wars. And so one has to be mindful of themselves when they view it. And there's no ratchetness on the Luke Cage series, and black folks are well-spoken. Even the gangsters are well-spoken. Okay, Luke Cage is a show on Netflix. Oh, see, I don't have Netflix. See, you should check it out. Really good black superhero with a good character and great integrity. You would like it. I have to check that out. Exactly. White folks don't like Luke Cage because you have a strong black man who opposes being called a nigger, has dignity, self-worth, and love for his people. I saw it in passing, but I didn't know. Okay, that's a Netflix show. It's cool, but too much for the young children. Okay, so now I just learned something. And another sister Tish asked me about another show, 13 for something like that on Netflix. Netflix be bugging out sometimes. I might have to re-up on Netflix. Sometimes they be trying to dig in your wallet, and I don't watch it all the while. So because I don't really have a lot of time to watch like that. So then it just sits there and then they keep digging in my wallet. So I might have to re-up on the Netflix to kind of get abreast of a little about what's going on around me. So I want to thank everybody for sharing that. Again, take a trip, take a matinee, check it out. Let me know what you think. Again, we're always here. You can come through the video, leave a comment. I'll respond. We can have a conversation. If you're on social media, I'm on Facebook. Not much on Twitter, but if you hit me up on Twitter, y'all gotta re-up. Sometimes you might be like, okay, Netflix, enough of you. Because, like I said, it's just too much in the day. But once again, stay tuned because I'm going to come back in like 2 seconds. More than 2 seconds. I just got to set up the video and then we'll read Oladu Equiano. There's so much to be told. I'll just say this. Sometimes a lot of times, we're waiting for other people to tell our story. I'm at Emunah Yisrael on Twitter. Let me see here, Kyle. We're waiting for other people to tell our story. And to my understanding, he quit his job and worked for how many years to gather the money to make sure that he had the creative rights to produce this story in the way that he felt it needed to be told. And so that goes to show you that even if we have an idea, I don't know why he did that. I did see that, Kenneth. I saw that in the beginning. He sold it to Fox, and I scratched my head on that one too. Instead of to the black man who wanted it. I don't know if it was reach that he wanted. I don't, and it kind of backfired. You see, it kind of backfired because everybody was like, well, why didn't he sell it to his brother? Why did he sell? If you went through that so much to preserve the story and produce the story, why did you give it to someone other than? I don't get that part. So I that's a question I have myself as well. And again, yes, the melanated person was trying to pay him more money. So again, the only thing I could really come up with is promotions, whether or not he felt that Fox had the distribution outlets in order to get it to the masses. But sometimes some of this stuff is not for the masses, it's for the people who it's for. And so he learned now, like they say, you're gonna learn, little man. He learned now because they really did pull a whammy. But again, we should not let that stop us. B Girl says, thank you. I most definitely will go see the movie. Please do. Every other nation is fed up with Caucasian nation. I think some Caucasian is fed up with Caucasian. He explains all of that on the Breakfast Club interview. All right, I'm gonna check that one out. What he did, I did not know he sold the film to Fox. Yeah, he sold it to Fox Searchlight when there was an option. Yep, that came out earlier this year. That he went to Sundance, if I'm not mistaken. It was a bidding. People was excited. They were bidding on it. He had huge builds. And he could have sold it to one of his own, and he chose not to. So again, that all works into the spaces that we have to work on within ourselves. So stay where you are. You're probably gonna get a notification in like 5 minutes. If you're interested, we're about to go into Alado Equiano once again. We read the first portion, and I'll be back to read chapter 3. All right, everybody have a blessed day. It was good to see you. He wanted the fame. I don't know. We can only guess. Maybe we'll try to get him on, right? We're like, yo, Nate, come through to the Left Project. We're going to put it out in the atmosphere. You know what I mean? Come through to the Left Project and tell us why you sold it to the Fox Searchlight. He should have sold it to the Blair. Yep. All right, everybody. Stay tuned. Like I said, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I just have to set up another video. All right. Everybody have a blessed night. As a matter of fact, what I'm talking about, I'm going to see y'all in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. All right.